Hey guys, so Netflix has released Death Note finally. So this is a movie that was based on an anime, which is based on a manga, which was super popular. And so Netflix decided to make a live action movie of it, which was directed by Adam Wingard, who also directed Blair Witch and the upcoming Godzilla vs. King Kong, which that should be really interesting. And the film stars Nat Wolff as the main character Light, as well as Lakeith Stanfield from Get Out as the character L, and Willem Dafoe is mainly the voice of Ryuk, the death demon that is the one that's essentially causing all these deaths that are happening. So essentially, I've done a trailer review on it before, and I really didn't know much about Death Note. But now that I've watched the movie, I obviously have a little bit more background on it. So essentially what the movie is that this character, Light, gets this journal called a Death Note. And anytime you write someone's name in it, you have to think of their face as you're writing their name. And you can write how they're going to die, and they will die that way. Super interesting concept. He decides to take it upon himself to essentially use it to stop criminals or kill criminals or bad guys, whatever. And then things sort of get out of hand from there. And L is a character that works sort of with the police, and he's an investigator who has to find out who's causing these killings. And he sort of gets on Light's trail, and it's kind of a back and forth from there. Now, I was kind of looking forward to this movie, as I probably said in my trailer review video before. Like I said, I don't really have much background on it, but based on seeing the movie, I feel like I do want to have that background of at least seeing the anime. And I actually started watching the first few episodes, and it's actually pretty good. But I'm really interested to see where that goes, because this movie felt like it tried to cram so much, and it's really short, surprisingly. This movie's only about an hour and a half long. And it just doesn't feel like they took their time in trying to tell this story. It really felt rushed, and like they tried to cram, even in the first 2 or 3 episodes that I've watched of the anime, it's basically so much more detailed and has so much more to it, which makes me question as to why they decided to turn this into a movie as opposed to an original series. Especially since Netflix has been killing it with the original series, with The Defenders, all of the MCU shows, Atypical, 13 Reasons Why. Netflix has that reputation now of being able to make these good quality series that I want to watch. Ozark, I forgot about Ozark. But this one just feels like it was completely rushed into a movie. I can see a lot of the concepts, even in just those short episodes of the anime that I've seen so far. I can see good concepts of where they were trying to take it with the movie and slightly change things to make it interesting. But at the same time, I feel like you could have gotten that detail and that level of how deep and how interesting it is into a series way better than it was in an hour and a half movie. At the same time, I feel like the way that sort of ends, it sort of leaves it open to where, yeah, they could make sequels, but why would you leave it open for a sequel and have sort of a mediocre movie when you could have a really great, impactful series that a lot of loyal fans will grow to love and appreciate, versus a 1.5 hour movie that just sort of falls flat. Now let me go ahead and talk about the acting. The acting in this film is mediocre as well. It's really not that fantastic. I felt like Nat Wolff, who plays Light, was okay. He had some moments that were kind of okay, but it just didn't really feel right. Then his girlfriend Mia, who I don't remember the actress's name, Margaret Qualley, that's the girl's name. She feels kind of like this weird character where it just didn't really pan out very well. I didn't like her character at all, not even from the beginning seconds of the film to the last few seconds of the film. I did not like her character whatsoever. The only person, I won't say only person, but Ryuk, the death demon, done by Willem Dafoe, was actually really good, and I wish they would have expanded more on that, which kind of disappointingly they didn't. But the main character that was actually really good, and I wanted to know so much more about, and they completely kind of dropped the ball. They sort of hinted at things, but they kind of dropped the ball, was the character of L, who was played by Lakeith Stanfield from Get Out. This guy was fantastic. I thought his acting was really good. I really liked the character, and I really wanted to know more about the character's backstory, as well as what he was going to do in his progressions. I felt like if we had spent more time with him, and mainly even just focused on him, I feel like it would have been a much better movie than anything else. I feel like the character of L could easily have an entire series of his own where he investigates all sorts of cases, and I would be just as intrigued as Death Note. And I feel like that character really shined through. Lakeith Stanfield is absolutely an amazing actor, and I really hope to see him in more things in the future. But he sort of got disappointed by the movie itself. His character and his acting were great, but the movie itself just sort of fell flat, and it kind of just let him down as a result of that, which was really disappointing. Now, in terms of the overall quality of the movie, I mean, I felt like it was pretty downhill, but there were certain things as far as cinematography and editing goes that I felt like it just sort of let it down even further. I mean, at the beginning of this movie, I could have sworn to you, if I did not know what Twilight was, I would say the exact same like camera angles and sort of things that were happening in Twilight were literally the same exact things that were happening in Death Note. And it's kind of annoying when, like, especially with the love story between Light and Mia, kind of felt like Twilight. And like every time they were interacting, it felt like a Twilight movie. The camera angles felt like Twilight. Everything related to those characters felt so reminiscent of that series that it was like, okay, I really don't want to watch this because I wasn't that big of a fan of Twilight. So I mean, I don't want to watch Twilight. I want to watch something cool, interesting, with a great concept, and sort of feel like it's something new. And I feel like Death Note didn't really provide that. Especially with even like the focus on apples and like the beginning, it just didn't feel like it should have been a movie that was with the themes and characters that it had, when it feels so reminiscent of something that was kind of a falter or mainly focused on like that teen romance, and it just didn't appeal to me, and I really did not like that whatsoever. And another thing that really kind of disappointed me in Death Note was the tone and like the way that it was presented. Not just like the editing and cinematography, but just the way it was presented and the overall tone. Because the tone felt like they couldn't decide, was this something dramatic and something sort of shocking, and things that characters were like really on edge. Light's being chased, Elle's trying to investigate him. They're literally writing in a journal and killing people. I mean, there's so many different aspects to what could make this a serious, dark movie. And then they added some comedy elements to it that just did not feel right with the tone whatsoever, and it completely threw off the balance of the movie. For example, there's a scene where like Light just makes this joke, and it just feels like it completely doesn't fit. And then like actually Light's first interaction with Ryuk, the Death Demon, feels completely off. Yes, he does act kind of, I liked it because he sort of reacted in a way that I think a normal person would. When he first sees him, he screams. But at the same time, he screams to the point where it's almost comedic. And it's sort of funny that he's having this over-the-top reaction. I felt like that wasn't quite the same tone of what they were trying to go for. Yes, seeing a death demon would probably cause that reaction, but I don't think that his reaction was meant for the purpose of the movie. It almost felt like a comic relief because he was screaming so much and kind of like in a more feminine way, and like there's the way he was screaming that just didn't feel like it was in the same tone of the movie. And there's some jokes and some scenes later in the film that kind of do that same thing. And like I said, it very much throws off that balance, and I feel like they just didn't know what the tone was. But if they had done it again in a series versus a movie, they could have set the pace with each episode and sort of let you have maybe those slight comic relief moments, maybe not as dramatic as it was in the movie, but some slight comedic moments. And I feel like that would have been just as beneficial doing it in a series versus doing it in just an hour and a half movie. Plus, I have to mention this because I felt like the ending was absolutely pretty bad. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I think it was a pretty bad ending. It was very confusing. The way that it ends was very much on a cliffhanger kind of thing, where they sort of set it up for a sequel. And what's probably more messed up is that if there was a sequel, I would probably watch it because there were certain elements that I did like about this movie, don't get me wrong, but I feel like they messed up in a lot of ways that even as a casual fan or someone who doesn't really know much about Death Note, it wasn't as exciting or go in the direction that I was really looking forward to. And that was disappointing. But I think that there's enough there that they could continue it. I don't know if Netflix will be willing to take that leap to continue this. But I don't really know. I would be willing to see it if it came out, but I really don't know. It was kind of iffy for me, and I've watched it actually twice before I filmed this review, and I still feel the same way about it, which is kind of concerning, but also kind of has that opportunity to really change and make something cool. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. And for that reason, the grade that I'm going to have to give Death Note is a C minus. Again, this is just coming from a casual fan. I really don't know much about Death Note. I literally just started watching the anime. I'm only about 2 or 3 episodes in, but I feel like the anime is way more interesting than the actual movie was, which I can see why fans might be disappointed by Death Note the movie. But those are just my thoughts and opinions on it. If you've seen Death Note, please feel free to leave your comments in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your opinions on this movie. If you're down there, please feel free to leave a like if you feel so inclined, as well as hit that subscribe button to make sure you can see my future videos that I'll be working on coming up. But other than that, guys, that's pretty much all I have for Death Note. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I hope to see you in the next one.